Raspberry Pi OS just dropped what may be its final bookworm-based update, and it's packing better Wayland support, touchscreen improvements, and a fresh look at security. So first up, this is probably the final release of the Raspberry Pi OS, which is based on Debian Bookworm, before Debian goes into Trixie, which will be released this summer. That makes it the last major checkpoint before a bigger base upgrade. There's a new lock screen experience on this release as well. Raspberry Pi OS now uses a modified version of SwayLock with a custom front end that gives users a feedback and a password box when they lock the screen, which is very nice. It's a major usability improvement over the blank white screen that left users kind of confused before. Alongside that, Raspberry Pi OS now separates auto login for better security, and they say that we have now separated console and desktop auto login options. We recommend turning off console auto login. This fixes a potential security flaw where a locked desktop could be bypassed using an auto logged in TTY session. Managing printers is getting much better in this release of Raspberry Pi OS because there's a new standalone printers application which replaces the system config printer with a cleaner, easier interface to use that is ported from GNOME. So this simplifies printer setup and management, especially for newer users. Wayland users will notice improved touchscreen behavior because users can now choose between mouse emulation and native touchscreen input depending on their needs. It gives back features like swiping and scroll gestures that were lost with mouse emulation, but also lets you keep double tap support if needed. There's also UI tweaks for touchscreen users with multiple monitors. Squeakboard now lets users pick which display to show the virtual keyboard on. It's a helpful refinement for accessibility and usability in more complex setups. Also, it is no longer possible to pre-install the Ublock Origin ad blocker. They were pre-installing it, but they now have to pre-install the slightly less full-featured version of the Ublock Origin Lite. This is because, well, Chrome and Chromium-based browsers have basically a wrench thrown into it for ad blocking. It's a pretty complicated topic that I might make a video about because it is going to annoy a lot of people, but it's just as basically just a heads up for users who rely on ad blocking out of the box. Thanks to Google, it's not as good as it used to be. The system itself is getting faster. Optimizations to WF Panel Pi and the replacement of Zenity with a custom tool called Zenoti, which they changed the I to an O, leads to faster desktop startup times, and these backend changes directly reduce boot and load times, which is a real benefit for low-powered devices. This release of Raspberry Pi OS looks like a solid update with better touch support to faster boot times and all sorts of stuff. I'll be sure to let you know what changes come on with the transition to Debian Trixie. We'll see, and I'll keep you updated, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already.